Okay, well, welcome back. Been down to Florida, came back. Weather's been absolutely terrible here in New Jersey. Trying to deal with it. And I think next year I'm going to stay down a little bit longer. Um, Been doing a lot of other things, so it's the first chance I had to make any videos. And I've got a bunch of stuff to edit from down there. And I got to apologize to my friend Jacob Smith. I haven't put that video up yet we made, but I will coming up in a week or so. Anyway, wanted to update you on what we've done here. We've been working on the 1361 for the last month, and we've got it finished now, and we're ready to load it today and bring it up to the Pennsylvania Live Steamers tomorrow. And I just wanted to tell you what we did here. So on the lead truck, we took that completely apart, with the exception of pressing the wheels off the axles. I kept those together. We took everything apart. The entire truck was been powder coated, except for the wheels. I had to spray paint those. No big deal. And we put it back. Now the big improvement we made was on the springs. Now the springs were so stiff that when it would go around a turn and the swing link would start to lift up the front of the locomotive, what would happen is it would literally raise the pressure that was on the springs on the main drivers and cause the locomotive to slip, but going around a turn. So we made the spring a little bit weaker, a lot weaker. In fact, we took half the leaves out, and we wound up making, my friend Dan Horting gave me some phosphorus bronze, which is, I can show you what that is. It's right up here. And it's just a bronze material that he gave me, and you can buy this at the, you can buy it over at McMaster Car. And we made up a complete set of springs using that, with the exception of the top leaf, which I used the original top leaf because it has block solder to it. The second thing we did was, on the equalizer, we slotted it so that when it flexes, it has a place to go. And now, oh, and then on the trailing truck, we changed this all around. We made these springs here, the main spring here, the leaf spring. That's just basically for show, and most of the weight is carried by these coil springs down here. And we made, you can't see it here, but there's a rod that comes down, and that equalizes into the truck. We put an adjustment on the bottom of that. So we've adjusted it all down, and now we've weighted again. And originally, we had 150 pounds on the lead truck, 160 pounds on each driver, and 160 pounds here. So each set of wheels had approximately the same weight. Now what we have is 80 pounds on the lead truck, which is enough to keep it on track. I like to really get more off it, but that'll work. And we got 230 to 250 on each one. I think, wait a minute, I'm sorry, 280, 260, 260, which is close to 750 pounds on the drivers, and then 150 pounds here and 80 pounds down there. So that's what the locomotive, you add all those up, that's what it weighs. And we're pretty close to right on that. So I think now we've got the traction we're looking for, and we won't know until we actually try it, which we're going to be doing shortly. And the other improvement we did was we redid the electricals. It was kind of all messed up, and I got new wiring in there. Dan did all the wiring. We got everything working perfectly. The other thing we did was we touched up the paint. I just touched it up and sanded the peeling spots and cleaned it up. And on the other side, we have the cost compound air compressor, which was a Mohs made in Canada. Actually, what I had heard, they were made in China. And the basically why it didn't work was machine work was kind of poor, actually kind of sloppy. So I took everything apart, cleaned it all up. By the way, I documented everything so I know what the sizes were. If I ever want to make my own, I can copy that. And I just eased out the shuttles. I put all new O-rings, eased out the shuttles, eased out a few other things. The O-ring grooves weren't completely right. And I cleaned all that up, and now she pumps like a champ. Now, I was able to, years ago, able to get 160 pounds of air out of it. And in one case, I recall almost pinning the gauge, and I had to shut it off because it was up to 200 pounds. But we're going to find out how that's going to work. I primarily want to use that air compressor to put air in, have air for the locomotive when we're backing down and going over to the steaming gauge when we don't have the main air compressor car, which is a RPO I made a few years ago. We want to use it for that, and I just want it basically to work. I mean, everything on here works except that. So I'm hopefully the new improvements I've made to it and rebuilding it with all new O-rings and everything will do the job that I want. Now the next thing is, if all this, what we've done is successful, then next year the improvement's going to be, we're going to take everything off this engine down to the boiler, and we're going to strip all the paint and repaint it correctly. Now I use the scale coat, as you know, which is the perfect color for Brunswick green, except that they recommend that you can put it right directly on the brass, and all of this jacketing and all is brass. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to sand it real good with some fine grit sandpaper, and then I'm going to prime it and use an etching primer, and then put the color on there, because unless you can bake it on, it's not going to stay on there. And there's no way, what are you going to do, put the whole locomotive in an oven? Can't do that. Or you can use lights, which I've used before, to kind of cure the paint. But I think that I'm going to use a primer, and hopefully that'll take care of the problems. And I'm not going to use WD-40 anymore, because I think that eats the paint up. But that's the improvements we made. Next year, if we do that, I'd like to take the drivers down, and I'd like to redo the crank pins and put hardened crank pins in there, because they basically wear egg-shaped, and we get this lot of clanking and everything. We'll probably still have the clanking, but I'm primarily concerned with, my primary concern this year was to try to get it so that it would pull a little bit more than what we can pull. I've just got another passenger car, which that gives us 5 cars now, so that'd be 15, 3 people per car. That's, well, 3 people per 4 cars that have riding, so that's 12. That's plenty of people. That's a heavy train. I don't want to pull any more than that. Too much work. But nice to complete the train with 5 passenger cars, 4 coaches and 1 baggage, and eventually someday do the R50B. So that would be the complete train. And otherwise, ready to go. Hopefully we'll get it down there tomorrow and test it this coming week. Might do a video on that, hopefully, if I remember to bring the camera. So that's it. I think that updates the weight. 80, 230, 250, 250, 250, 150. So that's 750, 900, 980, almost 1,000 pounds. With the water in it, it'd be 1,000 pounds. The locomotive weighs 1,000 pounds. I got most of the weight on the driver, so we'll see. I got like 3/4 of the weight on the drivers. That's what I wanted. So we'll find out. Well, only one way to find out is to test it. We'll go from there. So that's it from here. Please subscribe to my videos, and I guess we'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.